Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. So today begins the all-wheel drive conversion for this Escape. So to begin that, I'm going to pull the engine and transmission out so we can swap out the transmission that is designed for front-wheel drive with an all-wheel drive capable transmission, which I have already pulled from the junkyard a few weeks ago. And I'm pulling the engine out at the same time so I can fix a couple of things because it's all, not much more difficult to pull it together, but there is an advantage that I can fix things. So let's get started on that. Alright, so we got the coolant draining over here, and I got a little jug it's going in. I'll have to, I don't know if it'll focus. We'll have to swap that jug out in a few minutes for another one so we can save it and reuse it. And while that's draining, I'm going to get the oil draining here too. So, there we go. Break the drain plug loose. Put our catch container underneath there, and we'll pull that drain plug out. And I already have the exhaust off under here. Since all that stuff recently went in, it came out pretty easy. There goes the oil. I drained the transmission fluid a little while ago. So that's good. Coolant's draining. From this point, I got a lot of stuff on top of the engine to disconnect yet. I'll loosen up some engine mounts and such. Then we'll get the engine out of here. Well, everyone, we're on day 2 here of pulling the engine and transmission out of the Escape and getting a lot closer. I have most of the work done underneath now. Let's see, I guess I could show you. One of the CV axles fault me quite a bit, but I got that out. But I've got the exhaust off. All fluids are drained. Both of the axle shafts are out. We still have some engine mounts. I'm going to drop the AC compressor off of here. But other than the AC compressor, I think the rest of the accessories can stay on the engine. This has electric power steering, so it doesn't have a power steering pump. It really just has an alternator and the AC compressor. And I think the alternator can stay. Up on top here, I've got the battery out of here and the air box out. You can see the transmission kind of buried down in there. And it's just a mess of coolant hoses and vacuum lines and wire harnesses. I think the wire harness can mostly stay on the engine when it comes out. But I'm going to pull this upper intake off here. I'm going to pull the engine control module off the back here so I don't damage any of those connectors when I yank the engine up out. Pull the hood off. From that point, I think it's a matter of just making sure that all the hoses and wire harnesses and vacuum lines and all that are disconnected, and take the engine mounts off and pull the engine up. Right now I also have this kind of jacked up a ways. I'm a taller guy, so it's easier for me to work on. I'm going to lower it down just a little bit before I pull the engine out so I don't need to lift it so high. But I need to make sure I'm done working on things underneath first. But I think in the next few hours here, this engine and transmission should be out and on the ground. So let's get to it. Well, we are very close to getting this engine out now. So I've got the AC compressor off. When I took that off, I saw that the alternator is going to be a really tight fit to get the engine out with the alternator on, so I took the alternator off also. I got the transmission cooler lines disconnected. You can see down there that they're disconnected. Got a lot of stuff buttoned up here. Really all that's holding this in yet is 3 out of the 4 engine mounts. I took one of the mounts off while I was underneath there. And I'm looking at how to secure this to the engine hoist. And what I'm thinking is I'm going to connect the engine, the hoist here to the front of the engine, which means I basically need to take this engine mount off. So to do that, I'm going to put a floor jack under the engine so I can support it, take that engine mount off, connect the engine hoist to it. But then for the transmission, I think I'm going to basically put a strap kind of from one side up and around to the other side. There's a couple of good lifting points on the bottom of the transmission, so I can hook those, put the strap over the top. But first thing I'm going to do is lower the escape down a few inches. I can probably get 3 or 4 inches lower, and that will give me more room to lift everything up and out the top. Well, and I got the hood off now, you can see also. So let's get it down a little bit, then we will take off that front mount and secure that to the engine hoist, and you know, get this engine out of here. We're pretty much right there, so here goes. Well, what we've learned in the last hour here is that the engine and transmission do not come out the top together. And also when you try to take them out the top, they get wedged together where you can't get any of the engine mounts back on or get it out of the top. So right now I'm trying to get it unwedged and get a couple mounts back in so I can reposition things and lower the transmission down out the bottom, then separately pull the engine out the top. So a little bit of a debacle, but you know, and it's frustrating. But that's how it goes, and we'll figure out how to get it out of here. Okay, so I found part of the problem, which is that this dipstick was getting jammed underneath this radiator support. So I got that out of there now. The engine is kind of loose. I mean, it's higher than it's been, and I can wiggle it. So we're going to try coming out the top again. So let's see how this goes. right, everyone, so I got the engine and transmission out here on the ground behind me. Pulled it out as an assembly, and unfortunately the battery on my phone went dead right as I was kind of getting it up almost out of the car. So I was also at a point where it was kind of precariously mounted to the engine hoist. And when I got the engine, up about here, I found that it was too wide with the engine mounts on both sides of the engine to actually make it out of the engine bay. So right when my camera battery went dead, I had to also re-secure the engine to the lift while it was midway out of the vehicle so I could remove one of the engine mounts and then get it the rest of the way out. It all happened kind of quickly, but it's out now. And I also tried to do the best I could at keeping the area clean while I was taking everything out, organizing where the bolts go, what parts they go with, keeping everything clean. And it seems like no matter how much fluid I drain from the engine before pulling it out, and the transmission in this case, there's always all kinds of fluid that happens to leak out when you start moving stuff. So I've got a whole bunch of cat litter down, soaking most of it up. I got to get the shop vac and clean all that up, maybe put some more down. And I use cat litter because I have a cat, so I usually have litter around, although the oil dry stuff would work better. But I've got cat litter. And then the next things at this point is going to be separating the engine and transmission, so I can mount up the new transmission. And I also have a few things to repair on this engine. I've got a leak here on the cam seal that for this pulley that drives the water pump. Broken exhaust manifold stud, so I'll pull the manifold off, get that stud out. Hopefully that's not a nightmare. But the real reason I'm doing all of this, you can see down here. So this here is the output on the transmission. This goes to the right-hand side axle shaft. You can see it's kind of behind the catalyst here. And this does not accept a PTU. It's basically just an axle shaft that comes out of there. So if we go over to my other transmission, so same spot. This is where the right-hand axle shaft would come out, but you can see that's a little bit larger. Actually, the case isn't larger, but there's an extra sprocket in there to drive the transfer case. So this is the whole reason that I pulled this whole assembly out, is just so I can mount the transfer case to the transmission that requires a different transmission. So I'll get a few things buttoned up on the engine, transfer the transmission, transfer a couple parts on the transmission over, then get this back up and mounted in the car again. And hopefully in the next couple of weeks here I can have this back together and see how it does in all-wheel drive. And just in time too, because I live in Michigan, and if you look outside here, I've got snow at my house. So now I'll be able to have all-wheel drive in my Escape, but also take it off-road, take it out mudding, and do a whole lot better than just front-wheel drive did. So thanks for watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel, leave a comment. More to come.